Hi there, Heba. So let's take a look at this new set of essays. This is the first one is about changing jobs. Let's see, to what extent do you agree that they should switch? Let's see what you said. Okay, and then we have, okay, great, fantastic. So, experts throughout the developed and developing world have debated whether changing or maintaining the same job is a useful trend nowadays. Some believe that remaining in the same job field could be satisfying and fulfilling. Personally, I agree. Alright, now what you need to do here is you need to have some sort of a linker here. Now because you're agreeing with this, the best thing to do, honestly, is just and. So, some believe that remaining in the same job field, or in the same field, not the same job field, in the same field could be satisfying and fulfilling, and personally I agree. This essay will argue why staying in the same job could be far more beneficial, using examples from IBM Corporation's singular and The Economist magazine to prove points and demonstrate arguments. Okay, fine. To begin with, it is often believed that changing careers could create new job prospects for employees. The main reason for believing this is that employees should be mastering different and new skills that are essential for the job market these days. For instance, a recent survey by The Economist showed that almost 60% of the successful business professionals claimed that their vast work experience was mainly gained from working in different firms and companies. Moreover, many job seekers are usually looking for better job offers with higher salaries to raise their living standards. Okay, can you extend that a little bit? Can you tell me that perhaps these job offers would provide, what's the link here? So tell me here that a better salary could be gained from a different corporation rather than if the person were just to wait for a promotion in the corporation where they already work. Okay, that's what's missing here, that link, that extension, basically. However, such an approach would not be suitable or be enacted. Alright, that makes no sense. I don't understand the sentence at all. So just get rid of it and write something else. What you needed here really was a, in conclusion, or no, not in conclusion. So consequently, the decision to change jobs comes with numerous benefits. That's really what you're trying to say here. That's what would fit. On the other hand, there is ample evidence that most employees would favor staying in the same job. This is largely because when workers remain in the same company, they could progress steadily with the same employer. Alright, what do you mean? Why could they progress steadily? Here is the key word. Progress steadily. Why do you say that? And what does that mean to progress steadily? In addition to that, these employees are entitled to more pension and insurance benefits. IBM Corporation, it's singular, for example, usually tends to promote their loyal workers to top positions in the same company. Okay, great, but what does that have to do with pension and insurance? So make sure, if there is a link, Heba, that you make that link for us. Explain to us what's the connection here. Okay, another point to consider is that most workers prefer to demonstrate loyalty to their employers rather than looking for new job opportunities. Therefore, they tend to stay in their jobs for longer periods. Okay, why do they do that? Why is this an important thing? And why is this a good thing to do? So this is something that you either should have extended, you should have explained, you should have expanded upon, or you just should have not mentioned it at all, really. So they should stay in the same job. Okay, yeah, so why is this beneficial? Why does this position exist? There's absolutely no extension here. And then what you really needed to do is just sort of summarize the whole argument in this paragraph, okay? Alright, so to sum up from the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that although changing jobs could be exciting and challenging for many workers, staying in the same job provides stability and progress for a lot of employees. It is predicted that such a strategy will increasingly grow in importance. Okay, nice. This is nice. Such a strategy. That's a nice example of cohesion, so good job there. You've got some nice elements to your essay. I really did like a lot of it, despite the fact that you saw me correcting quite a bit. Okay, now let's talk about what you did that I liked also here. You said could be far more beneficial. Okay, so the fact that you made this kind of comparison in your thesis shows me that you're going to discuss both sides, and that's a good thing to do. I'm glad you did that. It's important to do that. So obviously there is merit, because even the question itself, the way it's phrased, shows that, look, these two sides exist. You know, which one do you agree with more? But I'm glad that you decided to talk about both, because it's not that this has no merit, it's just that the other one has a little more. So I'm glad that you did it the way you did. I'm glad that you gave your opinion, but you had to do it grammatically more appropriately. You had to extend your answers a little more. Now, I'm sure that this probably felt rather long to you. And for sure, it's got to be over 300 words without even doing a word count. I can tell that it is over 300 words. But let me tell you what I would like. Rather than having, for example, 3 main ideas, I would prefer that you had 2 main ideas and just extended them a little further. So here, for example, everything you did was really nice until you got to this sentence, which just seemed absolutely irrelevant to me and random, and I would not have included it. I would have done something totally different here. Okay? Now, as for this paragraph, this is where supposedly you're talking about the side that you really support, that you really believe in. And it started out really good, but again, towards the end, it just kind of fell flat because you had this last idea here, and there just wasn't the appropriate extension, okay? So you have to make sure, like here, for example, what did you say? They demonstrate loyalty to the employers rather than looking for new job opportunities. Okay, great. So why? What does that mean? I mean, why are we discussing this? Do you mean to tell me that as a result of these previous benefits that have been mentioned? So you mentioned that they could progress steadily, and then you mentioned that they get more pension and more insurance. So maybe the problem is not with the idea itself, but maybe the problem is with the linker. So maybe what you really wanted to say here was, as a result of the above, most workers prefer to demonstrate loyalty to their employers rather than looking for new job opportunities. And this in turn benefits the company because they have less turnover, and less turnover means lower costs and more productivity. Okay, so this is really what I was looking for here, if you decided to do it like that. Okay, so it's just a little extra extension just makes such a difference. Okay, we spent quite a bit of time with this. We haven't gotten to the conclusion. Here it is. To sum up, from arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that although changing jobs could be exciting and challenging for many workers, staying in the same job provides stability and progress for a lot of employees. It is predicted that such a strategy will increasingly grow in importance. Okay, lovely. That's lovely. No problems. And now we go to this little itty-bitty task 1. I don't know how many words this is. I'm going to make a random guess here and say it's probably around 140 words. I'll do a word count later to see how good my site is. Let's see what you wrote. Crop production in France. Okay, now here's the thing. A lot of times these kind of minimalistic task 1s are even harder than the ones that have tons and tons of detail, because you're really going to need to extend your answers here. So let's see what you did with this one. Okay, the shown pie chart illustrates how much, here we go, no, not really, not how much produced, how much what produced. So let's fix it from the beginning. The pie chart, this is how I just automatically start answers. The pie chart provided illustrates how the proportion of crops produced in France in 2017. Overall, it can be seen that while cotton production was the highest, the least produced crop was corn in the same year. In addition to that, no, get rid of sugar and wheat. Don't even talk about them. You've already told me what the highest was, what the lowest was. For your overview, with such a small pie chart, that's all you really need to get into for your overview. Okay, As for cotton, sugar, and wheat, which comprise almost 3/4 of the total crop production. No, let's try it again. Get rid of as for, and then start. Cotton, sugar, and wheat comprise almost 3/4 of the total crop production, whereas cotton represents almost 35% of the total crop. All right, what's going on here? Why do you have a sentence? Why do you have an entire paragraph of just one sentence? So you really needed to separate this someplace. Let's try it again. So, as for cotton, sugar, and wheat, which comprise almost 3/4 of the total crop production. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. No, definitely not. Let's try it an additional time. I'm sorry, but as I'm trying to work on it with you. So, cotton, sugar, and wheat comprise almost 3/4 of the total crop production. Full stop. While cotton represents almost 35% of the total, sugar and wheat production did not exceed 1/4 of the total each, with figures of 21.9 and 20.4 respectively. Okay, fine. While the greatest production of... You've already said about corn. Why are we talking about cotton? Why are we talking about cotton again? While the greatest production of crop was cotton, corn and rice, on the other hand, represent, no S, the smallest figures at 1.7 and 3.5 of the total crop production. Okay. Finally, barley comprised only 18% of the total crop production in 2017. Okay, this feels to me a little mechanical. It feels just like, all right, well, I've got these, how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things to talk about. Let me just talk about them in some sort of extension, but not really. And that's kind of how I felt. So I think what would have been meaningful for me is if you had maybe made some different connections with some of this data. So here's some things that you could have said. You could have said things like cotton made up more than 1/3 of the total production of crops in France at 34.4%, full stop. On the other hand, corn and rice together made up only 5%, with corn at 1.7 and rice at 3.5. These were the lowest figures of crops produced in France. Okay, so you can see there's a little extra extension. Following cotton, sugar was the second most produced at almost 22%, and it was followed by wheat with 20.4%. I guess you could put a full stop here. Then what's missing for us? At a figure almost half of that of cotton was barley at 18%. Let's see. So now what you could do is, this is one of those things where, I'm not always a big fan of conclusions, but there's so little information here that I think this kind of pie chart lends itself to a conclusion. So what I would have said that while the majority of, or not the majority, that's the wrong word. So while the biggest proportion of crops produced in France in 2017 was from foodstuffs or from food products, the greatest singular crop produced was for cotton. Okay, so that's something you could talk about, okay? Because all of these are involved in food, obviously, and cotton clearly is not. So that's something you could have said here to really kind of stretch out your answer. That's what you're being asked to do here. You're asked to stretch out your answer and make some interesting comparisons. Okay? You've done a nice job, though. I'm just trying to help you to see how you can extend and how you can further develop your answers, especially when you get these difficult ones that are so limited in their detail. All right, so good job. Go ahead and correct these. Return them back to us corrected, and let's meet back here with your next set of essays, okay? Good luck.